The indigenous peoples are our ancestors. We should thank them because they're able to conserve our resources that we're able to use today. But instead of thanking them, what did the other people do? In 2016, a rancher got hold of over 5,000 hectares of the tribal lands in Bukidnon. The tribe of Bay Merlita Mayantao protested, but you know what happened? Bullets rained down upon them at dawn while taking their morning coffee, and even after 4 years, the killers who are known to be the members of Rancher Security Group are still free. Also in Bukidnon, 11 IPs who fought against TNCs who are trying to convert their lands into plantations were killed. In the recent Instagram post of Miss Universe Philippines 2020, Rabia Mateo, she was able to talk to an Athi chieftain. He said that their lands were grabbed by private people because they have no idea about the legalities of land ownership. So how come these IPs are experiencing this kind of oppressions even though there is already a law that is supposed to protect them? As stated in the Section 2 of the Republic Act Number 8371, also known as the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act of 1997, the state shall protect the rights of ICCs, IPs to their ancestral domains to ensure their economic, social, and cultural well-being and shall recognize the applicability of customary laws governing property rights or relations in determining the ownership and extent of ancestral domain. In these trying times, we are supposed to help each other and not bring each other down.
Indigenous people have been marginalized and discriminated for so long. They face exclusion, displacement, and oftentimes because of this, their ways of life, practices, culture are neglected. We must promote and protect these vulnerable groups, and people should stop thinking that they are any less of a Filipino as they are.
Indigenous people faces discrimination, and because of this, it further contributes towards their poverty, homelessness, lower rate of literacy, and less access to our government health services. We should stop discrimination and help save them because they are very important people in our country. They help preserve our nature and conserve our culture.
With over 7,600 islands in the Philippines and three major island groups, it's no wonder that different cultural practices, traditions, and groups are present in the country. Among the archipelago existing communities, there are indigenous tribes who manage to keep their cultural identity despite the non-recognition and marginalization they're facing. Although there are a quite number of indigenous tribes or ethnic groups in the country, they remain some of the poorest, least privileged, and embedded members of the society. They mostly reside in the mountain and hence were not affected by Spanish or American colonization, which is the primary reason they were able to retain their customs and traditions. Today, the indigenous groups in the country remain in their original ancestral lands, as they preserve their cultural and practices and traditions. And while the Philippine government passed the Indigenous People Right Act of 1997, there are still issues left unsolved, including the right for inclusion.
Hiligaynon has always been a very known tribe, mostly all of us here in Visayas and Mindanao. They are one of the most popular ethnic group around the Philippines, and just like any other normal Filipino citizens, they have struggles and social problems despite living a peaceful life. Only about 70% go on to high school because not all families can afford to pay the required fees. Attending high school may involve travel to a school some distance away, and they consider or view the government and the justice system as corrupt because wealthy people are able to bribe officials to receive the verdicts they desire.
We need to be advocative. It is our duty as those who are educated to keep the culture going for years to come by being there to protect and fight for them because we all have our rights. Keep on going, keep the fire going, let the culture live on.
Indigenous people is widely recognized as the first group people who live in a particular place. They are also called native people in which they possess vast tracts of territories that is rich in natural resources. However, they are now experiencing economical problems due to the government, specifically those who are corrupt officials. They tend to take over all their possessions, including their natural assets like mineral resources and agricultural lands, for business interests. Now, they can't do anything because they are powerless, and if they do something against their opponent, they are often get killed and their homes are burned and their property are destroyed. Let us raise our voice in behalf of our beloved Aboriginal people who risked and spent their lives just to preserve our natural resources.
Indigenous people help protect our environment, fights climate change, and build resilience to natural disasters. And yet, in exchange, their rights were not protected. Indigenous people are humans too. We should respect them for which they have respected us. We should help and educate them in exercising their rights. We may have different beliefs and cultures, but we have the same goal, and that is to have peace and spread love to everyone.
Indigenous people never experience education, but they experience discrimination that they don't deserve. They just want to have a peaceful life or a normal life just like us. Their life is far from what we used to. We have different culture, different belief, but it doesn't mean we are different. We need to discriminate them. No, but instead we need to protect and educate them, and also let's spread love, hope, and peace towards each other.
Having a diverse culture is not the hindrance to access the right to education. Just like our indigenous people, there's nothing between us that differs from them. So we need to ensure that the right to education for them is respected, protected, and fulfilled. And we need to remove the barriers that limits the presence, the participation, and achievements on education of the indigenous people. We need to give what they deserve. They're still longing to be educated like us.
Even though we are in a hard time, a lot of private corporations are exploiting and stealing the land and resources of our fellow indigenous people.
Indigenous people are being manipulated a lot more than us. Their knowledge being limited is one of the main reasons why they are getting fooled in so many ways. They should be educated more on the things that people most taking advantage of, especially to the rights and laws that they should be fighting as an individual, tribe, or community. And also, higher people must be their helping hands instead of the one who makes them even more blind in the reality.
Discrimination leads to depression and anxiety in the indigenous people of the Philippines. Stop, think, and respect for the indigenous people.